What is up, my friends? It is Friday night. Your weekend is officially started, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. Yes, we weren't supposed to be live today, but with the injury news that Arne gave us in his press conference earlier on, I felt like I needed to come on, have a chat about it, what it's going to look like going forward, who's going to play where, how long everybody's out for, and how we got here yet again. As always, though, we will also discuss transfer talk. We'll give you some of the quotes from the manager's press conference. We'll ask you for your thoughts on everything we discuss, but most importantly, I hope that you're all wrapped up warm and safe wherever you are. It's bitter cold here in Ireland at the minute, but the heating's on, the heating's working, so we'll take that as a win. Of course, tomorrow, serious football returns as well. So I hope you all have a lovely weekend ahead of you. I have so much to go through tonight, which is kind of why I jumped on, really. That and the fact that the preview we put out earlier on was about as useful as an ashtray on a motorbike at this point, so I guess I got to go through that as well. So let's go through it all, and we'll start off, I guess, with the news today from the manager that what looked like the injury crisis clearing up has kind of gone in another direction. Now we are unfortunately going to be without Florian Wirtz and Conor Bradley. Conor Bradley for probably about 3 weeks or so. We're not exactly sure how long Wirtz is going to be out for, but we'll take you through exactly what the managers had to say. We'll talk about Mohamed Salah closing in on 300 appearances as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. 300 Premier League appearances, I should say, for the Reds. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about transfer talk, of course. Federico Chiesa, the talk is that he wants to stay and fight for his place. For now. We'll also discuss Antoine Semenyo, Mark Gay. We'll hear what our captain Virgil van Dijk's had to say, and lots more. So yeah, as I said, I hope you're all well. Thank you for dropping in, and let's get cracking. Oh, we'll also talk about the mad link to RAPHINA. I forgot about that one as well. So let's give you what the managers had to say, and then we'll go from there. So, he said both muscle injuries for Conor Bradley and Jeremy Frimpong, as long as Florian Wirtz as well. We know it's hamstring for Frimpong, so he's going to be out till probably the start of December. With regards to Florian Wirtz and Conor Bradley, again, he said both muscles. I don't expect Conor to be part of the next 22 days. Florian won't be that long. Arna on both of their injuries. So look, we don't know with Florian Wirtz. We don't know exactly how long, but Conor Bradley is expected to miss these following games. Credit the Anfield Agenda account for this post. Nottingham Forest, PSV Eindhoven, West Ham, Sunderland, Leeds, Inter Milan and Brighton. They're the games that he's scheduled to miss. So once again, Nottingham Forest at Anfield, PSV at Anfield, West Ham away, Sunderland at Anfield, Leeds away, Inter Milan away and Brighton at home. Not great that both of our right backs are currently out. We know that means somebody's either going to have to be shoehorned in to play right back, Dominic Szoboszlai, or you have to roll the dice and play your only other centre back at right back. I don't know what he's going to do. I think he'll probably go towards the idea of playing Dominic Szoboszlai at right back, but we all know what we gain having Dom at right back, we lose somewhere else. So I want to know any other suggestions that you'd like to see. Could it be worth Calvin Ramsey getting a little run, or is that a stretch too far? Trying to figure it out here, because of course, look, we know that we can put Jones at right back, we can put Dom at right back, we can put Endo at right back. I just don't know at this point, folks. We've been so unlucky in the right back position. Or is there an argument to throw a left back on at right back and see how they get on? I don't know. I don't really want to lose Dom from the centre of midfield because he's been so good there. Can comfortably say I'm a Chiesa sexual. His attitude and work rate amazes me. The more and more I see it, I really feel bad for Fede because he doesn't deserve that treatment, said Russian Honey Badger. He doesn't deserve it. You're right. He doesn't. None of us think he does. But we did get a bit of an update from Romano today around the situation with Federico Chiesa, and this is what Fabrizio had to say. He said Federico Chiesa's intention is to stay at Liverpool. However, if from now until mid-January he hasn't found the playing time he hopes for, and especially if Liverpool make another signing in January, such as Semenyo, who's on Liverpool's radar and has a release clause, then the situation could change. For now, Chiesa's side, the door is closed because he wants to stay and fight for his place. But by the 20th of January, depending on minutes played, injuries, and what happens with Semenyo, the Chiesa situation will need to be monitored. Now, yesterday, we kind of spoke about this a little bit, and I said, I wonder if Semenyo comes in, would that mean probably a move for Federico Chiesa? And I do think that that's what will happen if we sign Semenyo. I can't see a world where Chiesa wants to stay. I think the reason they're talking about January the 20th is probably the AFCON situation then at that point. So if he hasn't got games while Salah's away, and if we bring in another forward, I do think that that's what Romano was getting at there, and that's probably what's going to happen with Chiesa if we make the move. But truth is, we don't know as of yet whether Liverpool will make the move for Semenyo. The chatter is heating up again today. We'll take you through what some of the media have had to say. There's also been some very big news with regards to the rules in the Premier League and stuff that we're going to speak about a little bit later on. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at to start tonight. I want to just read out something to you that Arne Slot said about Andy Robertson's interview where he mentioned Diogo Jota and how it's impacted him. This is what the managers had to say. We're always judged, sometimes fair, sometimes unfair. I saw the interview live and I know that it is an issue for us, which I think is completely normal. At these moments in time, I think about how it must feel for his wife and children, as it's so much harder for them than us. We miss the player and the person. That's completely clear. We're playing Forest, and last season we were 1-0 down there, and it took him a minute to score an equaliser. He played his part in helping us come from behind last season. We miss him as a person as well. Look, you'd want to be made of stone not to have felt something when Andy Robertson was doing that interview. You know, you could see, as we mentioned the other day, you can see it written all over his face that's impacted him. And it was good for Arne to address that today as well. It isn't really any changing news, you know, it kind of, we are where we are with it. The guys are working through it, of course, week in and week out, trying to get things right on the pitch. And we'll figure what the captain has to say as well, because we'll be hearing some take from Virgil van Dijk about what he thinks the Reds need to do or should be doing. Bradley said, "Hi Craig, glad to see you today. We could roll the dice and go with 3 at the back. No, God no, Jesus no, forever no. We can't go, not at you Bradley, sorry. We can't go with 3 at the back, mate. Imagine an injury came to a centre-back playing 3 at the back. It would be, oh God, it would worry the shit out of me, mate. Longer term, absolutely. But for now, God, even, you know, I tried to say play Gomez at right back to Connor earlier on and he nearly fainted. You know, thinking of the idea of another centre-back being out. So, yeah, I don't know. It's tough to get the balance right. Because, well, look, if you played Robertson, I guess, left side of a back three, maybe I get where you're coming from. But, I don't know, I'm just petrified of another injury, mate. Leona, how are we? 4 months with us as a member as well. I'm buzzing for the game tomorrow. I just hope I should be able to watch it on my phone no matter what happens. My electricity is going to be off tomorrow. It's just a matter of, is it going to be off fully till 5 o'clock, or will I be able to come in and do the second half of the game or something like that for Connor? Connor's going to be taking you guys through the watch along tomorrow as things stand, and I should be here for the match reaction. But yeah, just my luck. First game back of the electricity schedule to go off for the day. Andy said, I agree, Craig, we need Dom in our midfield. It feels like he's going to be right back, if I'm being honest. So what I think will happen is we'll see Dom go to right back and Curtis Jones come in to take Dom's place in midfield, and Gakpo onto the left. So if I was to give you a team right now, my guess would be Alisson, Dominic Szoboszlai, Kanade, Virgil. Still torn between whether it be Milos or Robbo. I'd go Robbo and then I'd go Kirkes for the Champions League game. Midfield, Gravenberch, McAllister, Jones, Salah right, Ekitike left, and Ekitike centre and Gakpo left. That's kind of my best guess at it for tomorrow. Where can it be seen on the phone? For me, it's on TV. Yeah, we don't have the blackout, so I'm lucky. We get 3 p.m. Saturday game every week, and this week it just so happens that Premier Sport are showing Liverpool Forest, so I got lucky in that regard. If it wasn't, then you know I'd have to get the old Spanish DAZN account out. But for me, I'm fortunate that I am able to watch the game tomorrow because it's on TV in Ireland. Christina van der Merwe said office is looking good. Thank you. Really, really glad it's moving along as well. You know, the roof arrived today, so that'll be getting put on tomorrow. Yeah, it's starting to tick along nicely now. So, fingers crossed, it flies along. The weather's, you know, it's been cold, but at least it's been dry, so that's given the lads the ability to keep cracking away on it. Have I heard about Cole Palmer breaking his toe at home? I did, yeah. Just really unlucky. Really unlucky, Peter. I'd seen the article on Sky earlier on that, you know, he hit it on the door frame or something like that. I often wonder, this is such a stupid Craig thing to say, but when you're getting out of the shower, right, and you've dried yourself down and you're getting into your boxer shorts, is it just me or does anybody else's toes get caught in their boxer shorts sometimes? And I often wonder, has there been many men whose little toe breaks trying to pull up their boxers and is getting caught in their toes, or am I just an idiot? Probably just the latter, to be honest with you. Grizzly said, in the very off chance we get Gay and Bastoni, who would start with VVD? I've zero faith in Canade signs. Do you see Endo going in January or the summer? A lot of questions in there, my man. A lot of questions. Gay would be my initial thought. I don't think your scenario is likely, but I think Mark Gay would be the one initially because he'd be more used to the Premier League. But I wouldn't say it would take Bastoni long to settle in. But initially, I would say Mark Gay. On the Canade contract, Grizzly, I really don't know what to expect. There was some positive vibes yesterday. Graham Kelly said, let me see if I still have it here so I can read it to you. Where is it? Where is the thing Graham Kelly said yesterday? He said, told that Liverpool remain optimistic that Ibrahima Canade will sign a new contract at the club following further talks. Now, that's just somebody having their say. It's not confirmed. And on the other part, Endo, I don't know when he goes, but I think he goes soon. So whether that is January or the summer, I'm not sure. He's spoken himself about feeling a little bit frustrated now that he's not playing as regularly for Japan because he's not playing for the Reds. So, I totally understand if he feels he needs to move on as well. Will it be January? Unsure, but would probably edge to the summer. I love the range of topic here. Haven't broken any toe yet myself. I said it to Connor one day and he looked at me like I was mad. So I thought maybe it is just me. Happens all the time, said Uzi. Only on doors, said Sumat. Me too, said Clinton. Good. I'm glad it's not just me. Because these are just the weird little things that I often just wonder. Am I just a clumsy old oaf? Or are other people having similar life struggles? Adam said, when I heard you were taking the day off, I was sad, but see, this evening has made my day. That's so sweet of you, mate. Thank you. How many minutes would you give Isak tomorrow? Do you know what? I was actually going to have a conversation about that. He's fit, right? He's trained with Sweden as well. He had a few minutes in there. Was it 20, 26 minutes, something like that in the first game, I think, for Sweden. I'd probably feel comfortable giving him 25, 30. And I do think we will need him tomorrow. I do think whatever happens, we're going to see Isak on that pitch tomorrow, just not from the start. Maybe if he comes through tomorrow, okay, you could have a shout there from the start against PSV Eindhoven on Wednesday. But yeah, I think 25-30 feels about right, mate. Crashing your toe or shin against the coffee table must be the most painful thing on earth. I did something similar earlier on. So we got another bit of memorabilia today, and my missus kind of stuck it in between the two chairs in the living room, and my shin went straight into the frame, and yeah, I felt your pain, man. I felt your pain. Forest low block, Arna has his excuse ready. Well, do you know what? I was reading an interesting piece from Jones Knows on Sky, who does the Premier League predictions. And he was going through, and against other sides of our ilk, Forest are conceding around 20 shots per game. Now, I think that plays into our favour. They are playing with a low block, but I don't know why, but I'm going into tomorrow's game and I feel like we're going to score in the first half an hour. And the game will balance itself out after that. They're giving up that many shots. We know we've got people who can shoot from distance with high proficiency. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm going into tomorrow's game pretty confident. Which is hard to say out loud after the performance against Manchester City, but I think they're there to be beaten, in all honesty. There's a reason why they are where they are in the table at the minute. And yes, Dyche will come in and make them hard to beat, and they'll play for their set pieces, but I think if we get that first goal, the game's far easier to manage. But it's getting that first goal early. Jonathan, how are we? Jonathan from Germany. Nice, easy username to read out. Different expectations for different players, but we should aim to be the best, put the best possible 11 on the pitch, and I think Salah is still in it tomorrow. Or for now, excuse me. Oh, he is, yeah. He is. Well, what we have available, and knowing the manager ain't going to play Chiesa, I don't disagree with you. Yeah, they'd have to say, as things stand right now, Salah will be starting the game. Right? I don't know many people who would realistically not have him in the 11. There's always going to be people who still hold out hope that Fede starts a game. I can't see it until Mo's at the AFCON, but we all want Mo to do well. It's as simple as that. Nobody takes any pleasure in seeing them not do well this season so far. But we have what we have until January, and we need to see if we can figure it out then. Now, on that, let's talk a little bit about Semenyo. So, 1 second, when I just get to this bit in my notes. Yeah, so here we go. Fabrizio Romano saying Liverpool are very interested in Antoine Semenyo. My understanding is they already took some information on the structure of the release clause. They wanted to be informed. He also said Liverpool are tracking the situation, so let's see what's going to happen in the next few days. I'll give you more on this. It's going to be a very big name for 2026. It says interest from Manchester City, Spurs and United was last summer. So not sure if that interest is still there from these clubs, but like I said, I don't see United's need being great for a winger at this point or a wide forward. So I think they're going to maybe look for a central midfielder. And on that, actually, there was something linking us to Elliot Anderson. So the Times have said Manchester United face competition from Liverpool and Newcastle for Nottingham Forest midfielder Elliot Anderson. Let me ask in a poll question, which one would you prefer? Anderson, or would you prefer to go and get Wharton? So let me just ask this as a poll. Okay, let's see. Cool. Let me just make sure I've got this right. Yep. Right, so who would you rather, Wharton or Anderson, if you were to sign somebody to come in and play in the 6th position? Let me know which one of those two. Poll is now live. Right, some more news to get through. Because I want to work my way through the news, because I hate when I forget to do something and then the stream's over, I look back and think, sugar, I forgot to talk about this. So, today was a big day in the Premier League because on Friday, all Premier League clubs came together to vote on the idea of a salary cap. 7 clubs voted for the idea and 12 clubs voted against the idea, so a salary cap will not be part of the new system. But there are changes coming. The 2026-27 Premier League season will start a week later than usual on Saturday the 22nd of August. It's the latest the competition has ever started due to the World Cup final being held on July the 19th, with the top flight campaign starting just over a month later. So the Premier League clubs will no longer be able to sell assets like hotels and women's teams to themselves from next season to get around new financial rules. It comes after clubs narrowly voted through this new system of financial fair play based on squad costs. The clubs met in London to vote on the possibility and the methods of replacing profit and sustainability rules with squad cost ratio. It got 14 votes in favour and 6 against. 14 is the minimum that is required to exact a rule change. So they got enough to get the rule change through. Overall squad costs from the 26-27 campaign will have to be limited to 85% of a club's revenue, though teams competing in Europe have to adhere to UEFA's minimum of 70%. So if you're in the Champions League, the Europa League, the Europa Conference League, you can only spend 70% of your club's revenue on squad costs. If you're not in Europe, 85%. Squad costs comprise player and manager wages, transfer fees and agent fees. And it said most notably it will end the loophole of selling capital assets like hotels and women's teams. Last year, Chelsea sold 2 hotels to a sister company to keep compliant with PSR. I always get annoyed by these things because they've closed off the loophole, but they've allowed others to use it. So they've allowed Everton, I think, to sell their women's team, and then they've allowed Chelsea to sell 2 hotels to themselves. So now the loophole is being done, but they've already found the way through. So it's already benefited some teams, but at least now going forward, they won't be able to pull the same type of shenanigans. Bournemouth boss Andoni Iraola has been speaking about Antoine Semenyo's future, and he said, "We're in November. Semenyo is our player. He'll continue to be our player. In January, you can ask me about the market, but right now, I'm not worried about the next market. I'm worried about the situation. In January, we'll talk about whatever happened, the players we need." He certainly didn't say the player's not going anywhere, did he? You know, he kind of played it with a straight bat, which he has to because people know the release clause is in existence, but certainly sounding like it's possible that Semenyo is going to depart in January, but will it be to Liverpool or not? We have to wait and see. Prediction for Burnley versus Chelsea. I haven't got a clue, Peter. I don't know, mate. I don't pay any attention to what you lads are up to, so if you can't beat Burnley, throw your hat at it. So a Chelsea win, a handy Chelsea win, 2-3 goals. Yeah, you know, should be beating Burnley, to be honest. They're not very good. For me, there's no debate about which midfielder we should go for. It's Anderson, and the reason for that is he's far superior in the defence than Morton. He's also, I think, bigger than Morton physically. He doesn't have some of the injury concerns that Morton has. But this is one of those times where I will say, of course, I'm aware of both players. Of course, I know who both players are. But which one would suit our system better? I probably am qualified to answer that one because I wouldn't have seen a whole lot of either one, you know, outside of when they play us and a handful of other times, highlights on Match of the Day. So, yeah, I really don't know which one would be a better fit for us. I know there'd be quite a substantial difference in the price tags. You're looking at maybe about 60 for Wharton. Anderson, already some talk of 100 million. I mean, 100 million? That seems a bit far-fetched, to be honest, for a player whose team is currently 19th. Now, I know that doesn't reflect on his quality as a player, but it just feels a bit mad. 100 million? I just don't see that number being realistic. Biggie Malta, I think the rule is wait for Chelsea to find and use the loophole, then close it. It definitely feels that way, dude. It definitely feels that way at times. Grim Reaper said, "Craig, I think we should put Ramsey at right back and then have Joe as his sub. This means that if the game goes left, we could go to a back 3 as a last resort to get more players on the pitch." Look, it's interesting. The Calvin Ramsey shout is interesting. He looked all right when he played for us. Wasn't it the League Cup that he came in and played? He looked all right. Didn't really, you know, I know we lost the game, but I thought he was one of the few people that probably came out of that game with a bit of credit. I just think realistically we'll see Dominic Szoboszlai put it right back, and Jones put into his position. That's what I'm expecting anyway. Stephen Toner also said, "I'd like to see Ramsey getting a chance tomorrow at right back." 100 million, I want to change my poll choice. That's at least, maybe I've seen this wrong, dude, but that's the number I've seen mentioned. Now, granted, I haven't paid all that much attention to Elliot Anderson. I just remember seeing a couple of articles on the back pages tonight stuff or something talking about roughly 100 million quid. You know, if others have seen a different price, feel free to chime in and let me know, but that's kind of the numbers that I've seen bandied around anyway. Premier League joining La Liga salary cap. No, there's no salary cap. What there is going to be is anchoring, I believe. But at the minute, what they voted through today is that you can only spend 85% of your turnover on, you know, playing staff, managers. Yeah, so not quite the La Liga methodology. And look, I don't fully know La Liga's methodology. I know that they input all of their information into some headquarters computer in La Liga, and it tells them roughly what they're allowed to spend or whatever. That's not what we're expecting here, but the salary cap was voted down by, what was it, 6 to was it 12? Let me just read that one through again. On the salary cap, so 7 clubs voted, 12 voted against it, and I guess 1 didn't vote. So yeah, they did have a vote for on the salary cap, but only 7 clubs wanted it. So yeah, you need to get to 14 to get that through, which you didn't. Why is everyone 100 million? It's mad. It's absolutely mad. Like, yes, you know there's going to be a premium for an English player, but I find that the price tags that some of these clubs are now asking for a good player is crazy. You know, there's a change to the way clubs are looking at this. And I remember reading a piece about Brighton in particular. They don't sell their players at the price that they think they're worth then. They sell the players at what they think they can become and be worth. And somehow they're getting it. I don't get that. You know, like anything else, if you buy potential, yes, you're paying for that potential. But surely you're not paying for the finished product yet, because you haven't got the finished product. What the player can get to, or what caliber of footballer they can become, you know, you'd hope that that value would then be added by the new team. And of course, the player's own hard work. But yeah, it's crazy. The prices are ridiculous. Corbin said 88 million for a nearly 30-year-old. No thanks. Oh mate, it's a definite no from me. You're talking about RAPHINA, I gather. So this piece here from Spain, from Ficajes, so you know, bullshit island and all that in our view. Liverpool are plotting an £88 million bid for Barcelona forward RAPHINA next summer. RAPHINA is seen as a great option to replace Mohamed Salah, given they play in the exact same position, and in a similar way, RAPHINA finished 5th in the Ballon d'Or. So in 1 week, they've said, and I'm not joking, in 1 week, they've said, we're buying Vinny Jr. to play on the left-hand side, and now apparently they think we're buying RAPHINA at 30 years of age almost to play on the right-hand side. Yeah, that's not happening. Neither of those are happening. It's mad. Like, it feels like whatever they want to do in Spain or whatever else shite they want to write, they can throw out there and there's no pushback against it. If I said, like, imagine I came on here tonight and I said to you, we're signing RAPHINA and Vinny Jr. RAPHINA's going to play on the right-hand side. Vinny Jr. is going to play on the left-hand side. And yeah, that's happening. I would expect to see every one of you go, he's lost his damn mind. I'm out of here. Adios. Because it's just nonsense. Of course we're not signing RAPHINA. Of course we're not signing Vinny Jr. We were never going to, but they keep getting away with this shit. Liverpool forever, 552, said Craig, we have to focus on the Champions League to refresh players' confidence, save our season. Of course, but we got to make sure we qualify for it next season as well. So we can't just give up at this point and not play in the league and not try. We got to try to win every game. I know it sounds like such a boring cliche, but honestly, 1 game at a time, try to win every game we can. And that starts with Forest tomorrow and then PSV Eindhoven. Get into the top 8 of the Champions League when the league format's over. You know, get your advantage from that into the next round, not have the playoff round, and go from there. But, you know, you can't plan to win the Champions League because it's a damn hard competition to win at the best of times, and you need a bit of luck along the way. Thoughts on Semenyo, Isak, Ekitike as a front three? It depends how we're playing. You know, can Ekitike play wide left? Yes, but he isn't really that player. But look, I wouldn't be unhappy with it. You know, I'm gathering in your system you're playing Ekitike left, Isak through the middle, and Semenyo on the right. Look, if Semenyo comes in wherever he plays, I'll be very happy with. And I was watching something. No, that's a lie. I was reading something from Simon Jordan talking about Semenyo, and he reckons he's a cracking player. Thinks that maybe the 65 million release clause might not be as straightforward as many people think, but then again, he doesn't know the details of it. But he does say he's a player that he's been very fond of for 2 3 years, and is a cracking player. A lot of people seem to think that 65 million is actually good value, and I wouldn't disagree. You know, there's some doubts last night in the chat from people about Semenyo. And look, I kind of understand that. Because I don't know if what we're seeing this season with Semenyo is just the new Semenyo and this is how he's going to be going on, or if he's in a really good vein of form at the minute and maybe he'll tail off a little bit. But at 65 million, 60 and then a 5 million add-on, I don't think it's too risky for the, you know, we talked about Elliot Anderson a minute ago and the £100 million valuations there. I would say the 65 million for Semenyo feels kind of fair. Craig, the North London Derby has 19 injuries altogether. That's got to be a record. It certainly must be close, right? God almighty, that's a lot of injuries. I thought they do have Odegaard back, I think, though, so be interesting. But yeah, 19 injuries, that's mental. How's the injury picked up in Spain doing, mate? Thank you for asking, Macy Pappy. It's probably about 80% better. You know, it's certainly much more manageable, mate, than it was at the time. On that holiday, and I'm not exaggerating this, I spent every night just sitting on the edge of the bed. I couldn't lie down. I couldn't get comfortable. Pain never stopped, even with painkillers. It was horrendous. It had me crying at times. I was so frustrated. I just wanted to be relieved from the pain for a few minutes. So where I am now feels a world away from that. But yeah, still not fully back. But thank you for asking. I really appreciate it. And thank you for 10 months with us as well as a member. Wirtz and the amount of Madrid stories is silly. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm love to get a job working over there in punditry, because it seems like you can just make up and say anything and it'll be ran with. What about Semenyo, Akatika and Elise as a front three with Gakpo and Isak as possible attackers? Look, we'd all love Elise. It just doesn't feel very realistic at the minute. But if we get Semenyo, that probably puts the kibosh on the chances of getting Elise down the line unless something dramatic happens. But I said this to you guys last night, and it does look like our thought process was probably right. If we bring in Semenyo, you'll see Chiesa go. I'm absolutely sure of that. Yeah, I think if you see Liverpool move for Semenyo, I fully expect Chiesa to go. Maybe in the latter part of the January window after Mo returns from the AFCON, but that would be what I would expect to happen. It's Elise or Semenyo, really, isn't it? I mean, without being inside the camp, yeah, I would think so. You know, that makes sense to me. We spoke about Mark A quite a bit, and Crystal Palace here, according to Transfer News Live, said Crystal Palace are set to reignite their interest in Sporting defender Ousmane Diomande in January. They'll only make a move from if Mark A is sold for a fee in this transfer window. Palace had shortlisted the Ivory Coast international last summer as the long-term successor, but I think they were priced out of it, or else the player didn't want to make the move. One or the other, if I remember correctly. So, look, right now, and again, I don't know if people agree, but right now, for me, the priority has to be getting in Mark A, or a centre-back, but look, let's say Mark A, because that feels most likely. That has to happen. It has to. You know, you've even got Carragher and other people now kind of saying, that's what we need. Liverpool need to go out there and get a centre-back, and they need to get one in ASAP, quickly, early in the window. Because we are one injury away from being up shit creek. And, you know, that's even allowing for us being kind about the form that Canada is in. It has to happen. It just has to. What's Wharton's contract situation? How much do we reckon he'd be? Not sure on the contract situation. Do know there's no chance of him moving until the summer. And from what I've seen, 60 to 65 tends to be the numbers being mentioned. But like I said, evaluation could depend on how the rest of the season goes. From like, if he does really well, let's say with Palace for the rest of the season, forces his way into the World Cup squad, that price is probably going up again. As we've seen with Elliot Anderson. Like, Elliot Anderson's had a good run of form now, and you see the kind of numbers being mentioned for him are just sky high. In 6 weeks' time, we will know if we aren't getting anybody. Well, we best, Rachel, because I'm stressing about the season here. Like, as fans, we almost expect, or we almost feel Champions League's a given, but it isn't at the minute. It isn't. We need to pull our socks up and get going. You know, we're 8th in the league. I know that there's a small amount of points closing down those Champions League spots and where we are, but we can't afford to lose much more ground. We've got to get going again in the right direction and pick up points. So even with the injuries, the Verts, Bradley, hamstring injury to Frimpong, at least we've got Allison coming back tomorrow. We got to start winning. It's as simple as that, or we're going to be scrambling to save a Champions League spot. And that is, it's almost unthinkable with the summer we had, that there's a potential that we may have to even fight to get into that Champions League spot. If I was Chiesa, I'd be knocking on Roma's door. Imagine being rich and living in Rome. Look, I'm sure Gasparini wouldn't mind Chiesa going there. There was some links actually to a move there, but I truly don't know. It's a shit show. There's no other phrase for it. It's a shit show. What's going on between Chiesa and Liverpool is just an absolute joke. And nobody knows who or why is to blame, or what is to blame. You know, all we know as fans is there's a player who's not injured, a player who's training, and a player who the manager isn't picking. That's all we know. You know? And then we have to try and piece together the rest of it in our minds. But what really gets to me is, why wasn't he sold in the summer? Or loaned out in the summer? Like, that I just can't get my head around. It does my head in. We're going into a season, like I said, and the manager has intentionally left himself short. And I don't know why this isn't being asked, by the way. How has a journalist not sat there in the press conferences and said, why is Chiesa not playing, mate? You know, why have we gone into the season with 2 players that you're not going to think of as first team players playing, and you're giving yourself 4 forwards, and one of them's Isak, who's still not proven his fitness? It just feels mad. You know, I can at least make peace with the centre-back situation, knowing that Leone was unlucky with an injury, and we tried to sign Mark Gay. So I can at least think about that and go, okay, we've been a bit unlucky, and for whatever reason we didn't get Mark Gay in. But looking at the front line, you're thinking, okay, cool, you sold Diaz, you didn't bring in a replacement, so we're going to see Rio play, not every week, but we're going to see Rio battle with Cody Gakpo for a spot. Nope, that hasn't happened. We didn't sell Chiesa, so you think, surely now Arna's going to lean on Fede. Nope. Giving him garbage minutes at the end of games again. Simple things like this do my nut in, you know, because these are things we can control. You know, if the manager doesn't want to play Fede, then what the fuck are you doing keeping him at the club? Like, I can't be the only one who's losing their nut on this. Like, it's just silly. You know, we're out here now with an injury crisis. And, you know, injuries come around in all different kinds of ways. You know, some of them are bad luck, some of them are through a challenge, and some of them are through too much football and not enough rest. So we have the bare minimum now. We've had 3 forwards to play in 3 positions. Gakpo, Ekitike and Salah. We've had to pull Wirtz in there. He's a 10. And we're going to end up with more injuries. We can't rotate our centre-backs, so that's going to end up with somebody being injured. There's no fucking surer thing than one of them lads are going to get injured. You know, it's just... It baffles me. It baffles me how we can plan for a season, upgrade, and then screw ourselves by not using the full squad. You know, you say you want a small squad, but yet you're not willing to utilise the small squad that you have. Hear me out, recall Elliot and swap with Semenyo. Well, it would have to be a sale, you know, because we couldn't loan Elliot back out again to a Premier League club. So if he gets called back, it has to be a permanent sale somewhere. But again, I've no idea what Bournemouth's plans will be there as well. Paul said, team has got to be picked on merit, especially now. I don't... How do I say this bluntly? I don't know a single person from my conversations who thinks the team is being picked on merit. And as a Liverpool fan, and as somebody who wants Arnold to succeed, I have to say, I don't think he's picking players on merit. How could I? I can't. I think he's absolutely playing favourites. And that's okay if the favourites that you're playing are doing it. But when they're not and you're still not willing to change it, it just feels fucking stubborn. FC Pitside said he'd rather play with 10 men than playing Fede. Which just makes it even more strange to me, mate, that he did move him on in the summer. You know, I can't get my head around it. You know, move him on, keep Diaz. It's just, the whole thing just feels weird. Had we got Gay in the summer, would we be in the same position we are in now? No, I don't think we would. I think we'd be a bit further up. Now, I'm not saying Gay would have made everything brilliant, but even if he removed some of Canade's errors, that would have probably garnered us a few more points. Yeah, so look, for me, the answer would be we'd be better off than we are now, but he wouldn't have been a magic fix. Sayusurb said, do you think the reason Salah is underperforming was because he was overplayed last season? Like I said, I don't think there's one reason for the Salah situation. I think some of it's down to Trent not being there, and you know the relationship that they had, and Trent knowing exactly where Mo wants it, his movements. Some of it's down to Diogo's passing. Some of it is down to father time and age, and then some of it is just that there's been changes throughout the team, and there's been no new... It hasn't clicked yet, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So I think a whole load of things. I don't think there can be... If it was just one thing, it would be very easy to fix, right? Rest them for a while, let them play. But it just feels like it's everything. It's everything that's doing it. And I often feel bad even coming on here and speaking about it and like saying it about Mo. But my brain says you can't have it both ways. You can't be the standard bearer. You can't be the guy who gets paid the big bucks and then not be able to be held to account when you're not performing well because people talk about what you've done in the past. That doesn't cut it. It doesn't. It just doesn't cut it. Your football is a what are you doing now business. Like, what have you done for me lately? And I don't know anybody who thinks he's doing good enough this season. I don't. But for some reason, there seems to be some fear of having that open, honest conversation about it because of respect. Cool. Do you want to be respectful in 8th place, or do you want to be a bit blunt about this, you know, and try to force your way back up the table by holding people to account for not performing well? You know, are we going to just start to feel sorry for ourselves? Are we going to, I don't know, just fucking grow a pair is what I would say. Grow a pair. Just hold people to account. And it's always said that, oh, Mo doesn't like not being picked or whatever. Tough shit. Like, respectfully, tough shit. If you're not playing well enough, you've no right to be picked. You're still going to get paid your big wage every week. But ultimately, it's a team sport. It's a team sport. And somebody said something to me the other day that's kind of stuck with me. They said if you asked every one of those Liverpool players, they'd want Salah on the pitch. And I'm sure they would. But it ain't working. It just ain't working. The balance isn't there because we're not solid enough defensively. And we can't carry multiple passengers. We just can't. We're a hard-working team. I know. Look, I'm blunt about these things, but I'm being honest. I just something needs to give, or we're going to have a very, very up and down season. And you know, this is not a young player. We're not talking about somebody who in 2 years' time might turn it around. We're talking about somebody who has about 18 months left in their Liverpool career. Surely start looking to the future now. Like, let's bring in Semenyo and let the battle commence. You know, let Semenyo, Isak, Ekitike, Gakpo, Rio Engamoa, Fede if he's still here. Let them fight it out for a starting spot. And whoever's not doing it, bench them for a while. Hold them to account. If you do not like Chiesa, just let him play a few games for God's sake and help him at least get into that World Cup selection for Italy. Well, the Italian situation's another mad one, FC Pittside, isn't it? Because he's kind of turned down a couple of call-ups, or at least, a couple of call-ups, I think, from Gattuso. The whole thing just feels really weird. Like, even go back to the pre-season tour. You know, they tried to say he wasn't sending that because he had a niggle. That's bollocks. That's absolute nonsense. He wasn't sent on the pre-season tour for the reason Romano said, that he was being left here to find a club. And somehow that situation went on and we're still here and he's still at the club and he's still not being played. And this is like the big elephant in the room that nobody wants to call out in a press conference or nobody wants to ask the manager. It's just ridiculous. Every fucking Liverpool fan I know wants to know why the manager's not playing Chiesa. Not this he's not fit nonsense, because he's never going to get fit if you're not giving him games. That was his built-in excuse all last season. Oh, he struggled. He was playing catch-up. Yeah, but it's the whole fucking season now, bro. Is he still playing catch-up? He had a full pre-season this summer. Now why isn't he playing Arna? Nobody seems to be willing to ask that question. And I tell you what, every fan I know wants the answer to that question. Every single Red I know wants to know why Arna ain't playing Chiesa. Everyone. If there's one thing I've loved about Klopp, it was that he would give every single player a chance, no matter how bad their form was. But Arna is playing Southgate. Can I be... when I say can I be honest, I might as well say, Craig, you're about to get into trouble. No, I don't care. I'm going to be honest. I think Arna's scared of Salah. I don't think he feels he has the gravitas to hold him to account. I might be wrong. I'm sure he'll tell me I'm wrong. But that's what I feel. I feel he hasn't got the balls to take on Salah at the minute. That's how I feel about it. Again, like I said, this is going to get me in trouble because it always does, but I can only be honest, and I'm not going to come on and be somebody who just toes the company line if I feel otherwise. I feel that he just hasn't got it in him at the minute to take on a club legend like that. Because every time something doesn't go Salah's way or he's not played, the articles start to pile up. The cameramen start getting hard-ons and zooming in on him on the bench. And, you know, stories start coming out about links to other teams and all this other stuff. And I really don't like it. Because to me, the manager is the supreme authority in the dressing room. He's the guy. Everybody else is below him. He's the guy. He's the alpha in that room. And if you're not, then we've got a problem. If you're not willing to do what needs to be done, if you're not willing to go in there and stamp your authority in a dressing room, is this the job for you? Is this the club for you? Because this, to me, is Arna's big test. Do you have the balls to hold Salah to account if he's not playing well? Do you have the balls to keep with a winning team if he goes to the AFCON and we're playing well? Do you have the nuts to do that? Because if you don't, this ain't the club for you. This isn't the job for you. That's my opinion. You know, we talk about what type of person it is to take over a club like this. It's an all-encompassing job where you aren't just a football coach. Look at Jurgen, a force of nature. Grabbed the club by the scruff of the neck, dragged it with him. I'm seeing my coach be way too friendly with opposition managers, fawning over PSG style of football and Guardiola, being way too fucking complimentary towards them before games. I don't like it. It's not my cup of tea. And I hate it. So if he doesn't stamp his authority, it's going to get away from him really quickly, is my honest opinion on it. So I want to see what you guys feel, because I'm going to read through some of your comments now, because look, these things get me in trouble all the time. I say what I honestly feel, and somebody calls me out on it somewhere else. Somebody makes a video calling me a lunatic. Somebody makes a video saying I'm toxic, all this other shit, because they haven't got the balls to say what everybody thinks. Well, we built this channel off me being honest and giving my opinion. And I love Arna, I love the club, I love Salah. But you know what else I love even more? Winning. Seeing Liverpool lift trophies. Seeing Liverpool win games of football. I love that more than any of it. Because I'm not a Mohamed Salah fan. I'm not an Arne Slot fan. I'm a Liverpool fan. And these are what I think are important factors in winning. You need to be fucking ruthless. Right, so agreed, mate. He's got an ego the size of Anfield and refuses to do the right thing because he hates being proved wrong. Slot's treatment of Chiesa is vile. Slot has no backbone, said Cat Dad. You're probably right, Craig. I would agree with that. Kilburn said, yep, you're not going to lie, you're right. Salah's status, he may feel probably the case, like he doesn't have the authority to rule Mo out. So, here's what I'd do if I'm Arne Slot. I would say, well, let's look at the situation. We've got a player who isn't going to be here for 6 weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. We've got a player who hasn't done it yet this season. And we've got a player that he's already kind of intimated is bigger than him. So what I'm saying is, if I can crack this while you're at the AFCON, I'm going to gamble that I can tough this out. And that if you're not performing, I'll bring in Semenyo or somebody else, and wins will keep me going. And all the other stuff will be just noise on the outside, but wins will keep me in a job. And he's right. He'd be right to fucking think that. You do what you need to do to win, and everything else falls into place. That's the way I deal with this if I'm him. I'd say, if I took Salah on 2 years ago, I'm losing. But if I'm taking him on now, at a tipping point, where his form isn't what it once was, and we're not winning, I'd gamble on that if I was in Arna's shoes. I agree with you, Craig. Slot has no cojones, said Andrew. Salah's starting to feel like the Mbappe situation at PSG. So, oh God, how do I word this? I have a recollection that every time something big comes up about Salah, it becomes a problem. Mane won the AFCON, qualified for the World Cup. It was a problem because Salah and Egypt lost out. Salah's contract every single time becomes a problem. He gets linked with moves away. It becomes a big issue. It drags out. He plays clever media games. It gets sorted out. We move on. I've always felt, that there was a little bit of toxicity around brand Salah and Liverpool. A little bit. Of course, there's many brilliant things. Many brilliant things. And they've both been great for each other. But there comes a point where the things that you put up with when somebody is doing really well, you kind of don't put up with if they're not reaching those same levels again. And I think we're getting to that tipping point now where your upset doesn't carry the same weight as maybe it once did. That's my take on it. There's always been something about the Salah situation, whether it be him having lunch with PSG's chairman when we played Bournemouth away, whether it be some of the other leaks about wages and, what he could get elsewhere and the stories around Saudi and all this other stuff. It just always feels like when things are going well, everything's cool. But when things start to go a little bit against Mo, things change and things get a bit more toxic. I've noticed it from a content perspective. I don't know. Like I said, this is just me being honest. You're absolutely right. You have a point. The only time he was with Kwanzaa, and he's a kid. With respect to Salah, there's nothing to fear. If he ends up wanting to leave, we can't lose. Mo hasn't performed since he signed the deal. Let's be real here. Once he got his money, he's done nothing. Now, see, I wouldn't accuse Mo of that, personally. I don't think Mo's not trying. I don't think Mo's not putting in 100% effort. I would never say that, because he does. He is. He lives the life. I just think, I'm trying to think of a better phrase than the one I have in my head, but we have a phrase I'm sure you've heard of, that your mouth's writing checks that your ass can't cash. That's kind of where I feel right now we're at, is that it's now more of a problem than it is a positive, and it needs to be addressed, and somebody needs to put on their big boy pants and acknowledge that he isn't 27 anymore, and last season was an anomaly, and this season he has been way off it. But when you say that, you're going to be met with, but it's not only him. No, it isn't. Of course it's not. It's absolutely not only Mo. But he's the standard bearer. He's the guy. He's the highest wage. He's the star. If the star ain't cutting it, it's going to have knock-on effects. It just is. Cal said no real Liverpool fan complains if Mo gets dropped, and then turn the season around into, in my opinion, mate, winning is winning, and that's no disrespect to Mo. Whenever I say anything about Mo that isn't 100% complimentary, my life becomes a pain in the arse. I get called... No, I get some people go straight into the "you're racist," and other people go into the "would you be saying that if it was an English player?" Trying to, get around calling me a racist, because I dare have an opinion that isn't 100% supportive of a player who isn't playing well. And I've never ever noticed it before. Like I said, this is the first time I remember this, and quite bluntly, it's taken away some of my enjoyment of Mo at the club. There's always a looming drama around, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. There's always a looming story or a looming drama around the club. There just is. And like I said, it's great when somebody's tearing it up, but when you're not, that becomes a bit more of a problem. Yes, this one. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, at some point in an athlete's career, they're going to just have to acknowledge that it isn't what it once was. They've all done it. Carragher hung up his boots rather than go down through the leagues. And I've this is usually the best point of the season for Mo. Like, if you go back through Mo's time at the club, I dare say a lot of his goal scoring is done in the early to mid part of the season, and then we tend to see a bit of a tapering off towards the end of the season, whether it be through fatigue or, I don't know, something else. But we haven't had that, even the great blistering start to the season this year. And after such a big contract, although it's certainly not intentional, and I never, like I said, I would never say the man's down tools, because he hasn't, it's clear to see he's not the same guy this season. Now, again, there could be a whole multitude of reasons for that, but they're just reasons. And reasons, in another word, is an excuse. Who's giving you the stress about Salah? Whoever they are don't deserve a second thought. Just have a look. Have a look through yourself in some of the comments, mate. If I say anything, if I gave him a 6 out of 10 and said he played poorly, I'd get immediately virtue shit, and you're not saying nothing about him, or blah 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 blah. It's always the same. Now look, I brush it off because I know I'm not racist and I know why I say what I say. I say it because the same reason I say he's a superhero when he's doing well. I don't remember them being around when we're all praising him, but when it comes time to be in any way, not even like abusive, just critical of a performance, it seems to be, can't do that. Alejandro said it's normal, he's not the same player anymore. We just have to stomach this season. Next season should be the final one at the club, or we sell it this summer depending on how it plays out. I hate when people do that, Craig. The only reason we're criticising Mo is because we know he's better than this. Fans who resort to racism don't understand that constructive criticism is useful. And also, it undermines actual racism and people who are genuinely suffering at the hands of it. And I'm not saying Mo hasn't received some racist abuse. I'm sure he has, like any other player from a different ethnicity. And that is disgusting. But I can promise you, there's nothing about my reasoning for criticising him or anybody else that is in any way ever related to anything other than the performances on the pitch. Because when it's going well, we're all happy. When it's not going well, I think we're within our rights to ask why and try to figure it out. How are you? What would your lineup be for tomorrow after finding out about the new injuries? So Keane, I would go. How about I give you what I think he'll do? Because what I go with, I probably go back and forth on it. What I think we'll see tomorrow is Alisson, Dom at right back, Canade, Virgil. I think probably Kirkes, but I'd go Robbo. In midfield, I think we'll see Gravenberch, Maka and Jones, and then Salah right, Ekitike left. Ekitike centre, Gakpo left. That's my guess of what we'll see tomorrow. Martin Lawrence said, between his treatment of CHIESA, inability to hold players to account, lack of plan for new players, I've lost a bit of faith in Slot. So have I. I haven't lost faith in him, but I've lost a bit of faith in him. Yes, I have. Because I don't see a style. That's the biggest thing. I don't see a style in the way we play or what we're trying to do. I don't hear it. I hear a lot of excuses and a lot of small margin bullshit, but I don't see an ethos of how we play. I don't. What is our team under Arna? I don't know. I know what it used to be. I know what it was at times last season, and it isn't just because of the performances this season. I just don't know what I'm looking at. I don't understand what he's trying to achieve. I don't understand how some of the signings made sense from what we're seeing, the way we're setting out on the pitch. And I really don't understand his lack of in-game management compared to last season. Like Haaland was all over Canade, and Salah was being marked out of the game. And I don't remember if it was Carragher or somebody else. I think, was it Carragher? No, it was John Aldridge said, why not just swap him over? Why not swap him over to the other side? Just do something to try and change it up. But we didn't. We just accepted our fate in that Manchester City game. It's between that and the fawning over Pep Guardiola. I don't like it. Hello. Okie doke. Hello. Everything all right?
Yeah, drenched after training.
We've done that one. Sorry, Martin. Right, let's check in on our poll and then we'll get back to this conversation. So, we asked, who would you rather? We've got about 870 votes, so if we can get it to 1,000, we'll call it. But we're asking, who would you rather sign, Elliot Anderson or Adam Wharton, if you had the option? Shade Trainer said, that's a horrible team, to be honest. Cool. I don't know what else we could do. Well, actually, I do know what we could do. If I'm picking the team, I'll either put both left backs on the pitch, one on each side, or I'd go Gomez on the right. But going Gomez on the right, I would have to acknowledge I'm running the risk of our only backup centre-back getting injured at that point. But that's kind of where we're at. Like, my team would be Alisson, Gomez, Canade, Virgil, Robbo, Gravenberch, McAllister, Jones, CHIESA, Ekitike, Gakpo. That would be my team if I was picking it for tomorrow. LFC Journal said, Craig fed up of being called names because of questioning Salah's place in the team and his form last season. Was even told it's all Wirtz's fault for playing bad. He's playing badly. So there are a couple of different things that I've learned watching football and making content. We have a wide array of different types of fans. We have fans who are happy clappers, who will support blindly and not criticise. There are fans like me who are maybe a little too vocal and outspoken at times, but are bluntly honest with what they see. And then there are people in the middle who, try to take circumstances into account and say what they think when they see it. And if you're in either of the last two camps, sometimes it can get uncomfortable. And what does my head in? The Shankly quote. You know the one I'm talking about. If you can't support us when we're losing, don't support us when we're winning. That is absolute horseshit. Because they neglect the other parts of what he said about becoming a bastion of invincibility. Like to suit their stupid little narratives, that goes out the window. Because it's lazy and they want to feel better than other people. But how you watch football is up to you. Of course, if you're happy to go every week, regardless of the result, be happy, cheer the lads on, cool, enjoy yourself, crack on with it. I've no issue with that. I do have an issue of being told how to watch football and support football by other people because, like I said, you don't get to become the most successful club in English football without having standards and holding those standards and winning shit. So for me, if you want to be a winning team, then all the parts have to be firing. It's a tough league and we can't carry any passengers. And if people aren't pulling their weight, well, they should be on the bench. It's as simple as that. Canale shouldn't be starting every week, but we've no choice. So he's kind of having to play. Yeah, but let's be honest about it. Let's wait and see. That's Shankly's quote, just screams no standards. It's just lazy is what it is. It's just like I said, you just want to belittle somebody, so you just throw that shite out there. It's not me. Like I've said, I call it as I see it. I'll praise where I think people need praising. I'll be critical where I think people need to be critical. But it always comes from a place of wanting the best for the team. And I've kind of made my peace with the fact that I'm going to be a bit Marmite in life with people. Because, I am what I am. It's not hard to figure me out. I'm pretty straightforward. And I treat people as they treat me. If people are respectful to me, I'll be it back. If people want to be an asshole, well, I can be a super asshole. Nessie, how are you? Just had a thought. If Slot would be better as a traditional manager rather than this new head coach structure. So, the problem with a traditional manager is if they're the ones making the purchases and bringing in the players, if you get rid of the manager, then it becomes a bigger problem throughout the club. The whole European ethos of having a sporting director is that the sporting director is the one who actually sets the philosophy of football in the club. The system, the style of play, and they bring in a coach then to coach that system. So we obviously had Jurgen, who was pretty much running things from top to bottom at the end. So when he moved on, the club correctly looked at the situation and thought, right, let's put a structure in place with Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, and the rest of the team. So when the coach comes in, if the coach works, cool. We all work together harmoniously, pull in the same direction, share ideas, talk to each other. But if it doesn't work, and the worst comes to the worst, it shouldn't be as much of an upheaval to take out a coach, fire them, and bring in another one. Because the structure of the club, the signing of players, is all done with medium to long-term thinking in place. And not an Antonio Conte style of come in, give him what he wants, you'll get success for a while, he'll then fall out with people, he'll head off, and then you're left with a kind of hodgepodge of players that might not suit what you want to do. And I think then you earn the right as a coach. Now, Arne earned a lot of brownie points for winning the league last year, and rightly so. So he probably does have a little bit more of a say than he would have had when he came in initially. You've got to earn the right, I guess, to have that gravitas and that opinion. But I wouldn't feel comfortable with Arne in charge of everything at the minute. I just wouldn't. I don't think he has. I don't think he has the scope to run a football club from top to bottom. I don't think he has the gravitas to do that. I think he's a very, very good coach, and that's where I think we should be leaving him as the coach. Let him figure out the systems, work with the players, but ultimately, I don't think he's earned enough power yet. Moosey said, Craig, I've now stopped moaning at Salah and realise it's the manager who keeps playing him. Slot is weak. I can understand that to some extent. I wouldn't say the man's weak, but I would say he can look weak at times. I definitely understand that part. Have you heard Slot on the whole Grafenberch and Endo as centre back? Drives me insane. It drives me absolutely doolally. Absolutely doolally. Because it's more excuses. You want a small squad. Why do you want a small squad, Arna? I want a small squad because I want everybody to feel like they're contributing something, and we don't want to have players who are unhappy and not on the bench. Cool. So to make the small squad work, you've got to be rotating people, and you've got to have a group of players that you truly believe in, so that you don't have a situation where you're making your smaller squad smaller. And he is. He's made his own smaller squad smaller by freezing out CHIESA and not giving Rio opportunities. I understand Rio not getting opportunities. I truly, truly do. But I don't understand it when you add in the fact that we're not signing anybody else because we sold Diaz and we're not blocking a pathway. Okay, but the pathway is fucking us at the minute. This season is shafting us because we don't have a Diaz replacement, because we don't have another centre back. So shoehorning in other people into positions that are, yes, temporarily a sticking plaster here, we're losing something somewhere else. It's all just robbing Peter to pay Paul, and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough. We didn't sign Gravenberch to be a centre-back. We didn't sign Endo to be a centre-back. We didn't sign Szoboszlai to be a right-back. This is all just excuse-making for injuries. Now, I don't know why the injuries happen, but I do know that by not rotating as much and not having a squad you believe in, overplaying players is going to lead to more fatigue and injuries. That ain't rocket science. The thing that we lauded Arne for last year, and Ruben Peters, was the ability to keep the squad fit. I've said many, many times I think that was the difference why he won the league and Klopp didn't win it the year before, was he did find a way to strike the balance, to keep lads fit and take them off when they needed to. But this season, how many injuries have we had? No, I'm not saying we're the worst hit with injuries, by the way, but how many injuries have we had already? You know, Bradley, I love him to bits, but it's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good that you can't play a month consecutively without picking up an injury. And I love Conor Bradley to bits. I think he's a fantastic right back. But we have a fucking problem. We have a problem there now. Because both our right backs are gone. And we're in November. And this isn't Bradley's first injury of the season. If my memory's right, it's his second. It just feels... It feels mental. Like, how do you spend £500 million and end up in a worse position than last year? And do you know what really drives me mad? Is the revisionism, and I say this every night. We had something that we wanted in the summer. We all came together, talked about the transfers, and I have to credit there were people who were concerned about too much change. I have to give those people credit because they did say it in the summer. I didn't. I was somebody who said these guys are too good not to work. But it ain't working so far. And I would challenge anybody outside of Real Madrid and Aston Villa, perhaps, to give me 45 minutes that we've played well consecutively this season. I don't think it's happened. Marky Lynch said, Arna is a transitional coach in the sense that his style and numbers made him the best Klopp successor. A year on, his own scope for players to impress his own style, and so far it's failing. Yep, I would agree with that. Because, again, coming back to, does it look like there was a plan? Like, you've seen Isak on the pitch, a limited amount, but you've seen him the same as me. It doesn't look like the lads have a fucking clue where he's running, what he's going to do, or how to get the best out of him. You bring in Wirtz to play as a 10, and now we're having to put on the left wing. Like, what was the plan? What was the plan for Frimpong? Truly, what was the plan? Because he's not a right back. He's a wing back. So, we're bringing him in for what? These are things I can't get my head around at the minute. They're really good players, and I wouldn't really change any of the transfer business in the summer. I was so happy about every single one of the signings we made, and I don't want to go back on that. But the manager doesn't look like he knows what to do with them at the minute. And we're now in late November. So when is he going to do something different? Or just keep doing the same shit and hoping we're going to find a way? Paul Beer said, table says it all, 8th in goal difference +1. And yet there are people who are happy about it. And that I can't understand. Like, I don't know. It keeps me up at night, stressing about what the hell is going on and where we are. Actually, let's talk about something positive for Mo, because, this is a milestone that he deserves. He deserves credit for. Salah is about to make his 300th Premier League appearance for Liverpool this weekend. He's only the 5th player to reach that, behind Jamie Carragher with 508, Steven Gerrard with 504, Jordan Henderson with 360, Andy Say football on his own, Sami Hyypiä with 318, and then Mohamed Salah coming in with 300, which is an incredible feat. So super congrats on that. Let's hope, we can mark that 300th game with a couple of goals as well. That'll be lovely. How do I pronounce this? Shezrock says, our biggest mistake in the transfer market was not bidding for Mark A sooner. Yeah, I'm very confused by that whole situation. I would say, if you asked any coach, do you want a player in early or not? They're going to say, yeah, right? Of course they are. You want a new player in as quickly as you can, because you got to get up to speed. And I would also say that if we sat here last year and had a conversation about positions that the Reds need to strengthen in, left back, centre forward and centre back are probably 3 of the first things that we address as fans that we would say we need. To be fair, left back sorted out, A1 nice and quickly. Got Ugo Ekitike in up top, cool. Why leave it so late though? So late. Especially when you know you're going into a season with another centre back who hasn't committed his future yet. So you're not sure where his head's going to be at. There's too much benefit of the doubt given for me, and assuming that people are going to do the right things and be the right people, and that everybody's great and it's all kumbaya and nobody's distracted by contract. How many fucking times last year did you hear the manager say that Salah and Virgil are professionals and they ain't, the contract shit, it doesn't bother them in the slightest? Fast forward, when the contracts are signed, the 2 players, both of them say, yeah, it was in my head. Yeah, it was in my head. Of course it was, because they're fucking human. So despite what we keep getting told about footballers, they are human. They do feel the things you and I feel. They feel the same doubt. Money doesn't matter. If you don't know where your family's going to be living in 6 months, you don't know where your kids are going to be going to school. This is shit that matters no matter how much money you make. So of course it was in their heads. Of course the situation was getting to Trent. Of course it was. But we got told it wasn't. Until the players actually had freedom to speak. And then we heard, yes. And I keep getting told, but Craig, the manager said this. Well, I don't mean to be, the guy to burst the bubble. But managers fucking lie all the time. Football clubs lie all the time. Out of necessity. I'd lie in their position. You've got to protect the club. But you don't have to buy that as a fan. You don't have to take every word from a press conference as gospel. You're allowed to have your own critical thinking and say, that doesn't pass the smell test, Gaffer. That's not right. It's not affecting Trent. Yet that game against Manchester United, he literally looked like his head was gone. Like, looked like he didn't have a Scooby-Doo what was going on out there. And I guess we'd be told the same thing now about Canade. Arna, do you think the situation with the contract is in hurting Canade's form? No, he's a professional, trains hard, works hard, does the right thing, says the right things, eats the right things. We'll give 100%. Yeah, but he won't though, will he? He won't. Like, if he knows he's not going to be here at the end of the season, and again, I don't know whether he is or not, but if he knows he's going to Madrid or he's off somewhere else, the fuck do I think he's going to give 100% every week, regardless of any happy clappy kumbaya sing around the campfire nonsense. He's not. It's human nature. He's going to think, well, you know, I want to make sure I get to my new club in 100% fitness, and I want to make sure that I get to the World Cup and that's okay, and I'm not carrying an injury. And, you know, if I feel a little niggle and if I'm playing for a new contract and I feel a little niggle, I'm going to play through it. But if I know I'm not going to be here and I have a little niggle, am I going to play through it? Probably not. Probably not. But some people don't live in the real world, and they think because someone's a footballer that they don't have the same human emotion that we all have. And it's natural. And I'm not calling these lads out for it. Because like I said, every single one of us in the same position would have the same fears, the same doubts, and the same thoughts. Sonder said, ideally we get both Wharton and Anderson if Maka leaves for Spain. Also, why didn't we sign Reed, as he's a huge LFC fan? Is this the right back that City are looking at? Is it Guevara Reed? Is that the one you're talking about, Sonder? I don't know, in all honesty. I'd seen that Manchester City were looking at him as a right back option, which are they really unhappy then with what they got when they brought in the guy from Wolves, ENQUIRIES? I don't know if maybe they feel like he's not pulled up enough trees. Do his signings indicate Champions League is a priority? I don't know. Look, I'd love a Champions League, so I'm not going to sit here, Liam, and excuse me, and say that I wouldn't be happy if we're going for the Champions League. I'd love a Champions League, but you can't turn it on and off. You can't 1 week go out there and play 100% intensity in the Champions League and then go back to the Premier League and switch it down a little bit and then go back in. Everything is a habit. Winning's a habit. So doing the right thing should be done all the time. Actually, I want to read out something from Virgil, who said, and I'm sure this is the case, by the way. I want to read out what Virgil's saying, and I'm sure it is the case. Truly I am. But I think some other people shy away from the truth. He said, we don't shy away from the truth at this club. We know that there's improvement to be found in our performance levels, and we know that the only way to find that improvement is through hard work and togetherness. I've said many times I believe in the quality and the character of this squad, but we have to show it where it matters, which is out there on the field. So this was posted in our Discord group. Do you want me to tell you what the next 5-6 posts were, or do you want to have a guess? Because, and I didn't prompt any of this, because I didn't post this in the Discord. Somebody posted it, and the next few posts I sat there reading through, and they said something along the lines of, no more talk, enough talking, start doing it. And I couldn't have summed it up any better. I'm fed up of hearing about the right things being done. I'm fed up of hearing about noise being blocked out from the outside. I'm sorry, but when it ain't good enough, it ain't fucking good enough, regardless. And we don't want to hear that you have great belief in the squad. We want to hear that you're in there bashing heads together. We want to hear that you're in there talking like Andy Robertson does, about it hurting them, about it haunting them that they're not doing well enough, and about it not being good enough. Don't want to hear about, we know. Just fucking change something. Just do it on the pitch. Stop talking and just go out there and do it. Because for the love of God, it's just been one excuse after another this season. And it's getting tiresome. Blocking out the outside noise. You mean the criticism for the shit performances? That outside noise, like the truth? The truth. We're blocking out the truth. Because that's what I hear. Outside noise. There's no outside noise when you're winning and everyone's telling everyone how great they are and they're all being nominated for awards and they're all being, held up as gods, rightly so. There's no outside noise then. But whenever anybody dares criticise, all of a sudden then it's outside noise. Don't want to listen to it. Cool. But, it's kind of deserved. This one from Sonder said, I'm sorry, but Bradley is way too average to keep around with being so injury prone and also not that good. Biggest downgrade from Trent to Bradley. So, a couple of things on that. Very much disagree on his quality. And of course, you have to remember his age as well. So, very, very much disagree with you on him not being good enough, but cannot argue with you about the injury thing. I can't argue with you about that at all. I mentioned it earlier on. It will be the thing that if it doesn't sort out, that will see him moved on eventually. You have the manager coming out and saying it. The biggest problem is that he can't play 3 games in a week, and he just hasn't been able to do that. So I would strongly disagree on his quality because I think he's a very, very good defender. And I think he's got an energy to get up and down that flank all day. And I think he'll get better because, he's not like he's played a full season at right back, partly because he can't, but because Trent was there. So this is his first season. And I think he's done all right performance-wise. But, like I said, I can't argue with you over the injuries thing. That's just so disappointing. And I'm sure very frustrating for him as well. Haley said, has Chris named his Hoover? Love the podcast. I don't know. I haven't actually spoken to Chris yet since the last episode. I've been really, really busy and Chris has been working away as well with the World Snooker Tour. So haven't actually had a chat with him yet about as he named it. I'm sure he probably has though. But yeah, he's very happy with his Hoover. Right, let's end this poll because we've gone over 1,000 votes. So 75% of the people that voted said they would prefer Adam Wharton over bringing in Mr. Anderson, which is interesting. I don't know enough about Anderson to really give a fair comparison from me. If I had to vote, I probably would have voted Wharton because I know a bit more about him. Joseph said, thoughts on Flo's injury? I'm just really concerned about how long it might be. Now, by the sounds of it, it's not going to be too long, which is great. But we didn't really get too much information today from the manager about it. And I do, again, often understand these are medical records at the end of the day. So sometimes there are only so much a manager can and can't say. And sometimes they genuinely don't know the full extent of it yet. So it was somewhat positive. Devastating to hear that he's out, like really devastating, but somewhat positive to hear that it doesn't sound initially like it's going to be a month or so, which is good news. If it's a game or two, hopefully we can figure it out. But I'll say the same about Wirtz. To try to make this fair, if Florian Wirtz is out for a game or two and Cody Gakpo starts tearing it up, then sorry Flo, you're on the bench. I truly believe in, if you're keeping hold of that shirt and you're playing well, that's your shirt. And you've got to wait for your next chance to impress. So right now, our loss of Wirtz being out is somebody else's gain. Let's say Cody Gakpo. Cody gets a chance now to come back in and show again why he's at Liverpool. And, hopefully he can do that. With Bradley, it's just really unfortunate because if it carries on this season, you can't be relied on. Unfortunately, you can't. No manager can plan for a season if you think your right back can only play 1 game a week. That's really just unfortunate, but you know, it is the reality of what we're seeing at the minute, unfortunately. And if it does continue, you know, the club are going to have to look somewhere else to bring in somebody to be the week in, week out player. Virgil's philosophical social media post like this too shall pass needs to stop. Just fix it and train and show it on the pitch. Look, in some ways, I'm sure Virgil will say, I'm only answering a question. Someone's asked me something and I'm answering it. And I do get that. But also, I'd like to hear, you know what? We've done enough talking. Nobody's happy. Let's see it on the pitch. Let's go out there and do it on the pitch. Let that do our talking. That, you know, that'd be enough for me. Nola Eli said, crazy that we have to argue as fans that the club should be a meritocracy and not playing favourites. Yeah, there's a lot of times, mate, unfortunately, fans are pitted against each other. The ticketing situation is another one that I would say makes me sad when I see Liverpool fans turning on each other. The atmosphere is one that does my fucking head in. Because it's always the excuse towards everyone that you know, it's overseas fans, tourist fans, always the problem. It doesn't matter that, I don't know, 30 odd thousand of the fans in there, I think, are season ticket holders, something like that. You know, it's always the overseas fans or the visiting fans' fault when it's great, when the atmosphere is brilliant, fucking born and bred, you know, grew up on the cop. Doesn't matter that there's probably still the same amount of travelling overseas tourist fans in the ground that day as there was the day the atmosphere was shit. Because the truth of the matter probably is it's hard to get up for a 12:30 game against somebody on a Saturday compared to, you know, under the lights at Anfield in the Champions League against Real Madrid. You know, it's natural for everybody. Whether you go there week in or week out or you're flying in from Timbuktu, you're going to be more up for that game. You're going to be more excited for that game. It's going to be febrile inside the stadium. Whereas, you know, fucking Brentford at 12:30 on a Saturday, with all due respect to Brentford, ain't the same thing. So it's natural. I view the atmosphere as a living, breathing thing that reflects what they're seeing on the pitch, that reflects any injustices that they feel on the pitch, and that gives back to the pitch. It's definitely a two-way street. So when I see fans being blamed, whether they're local, whether they're non-local, it drives me mad. Because the atmosphere is set by the pitch, the players. The fans can do their bit, but they're hardly gonna be able to be vocal for 90 minutes. And also, I don't want fans to be vocal for 90 minutes. You go to German football and there's this monotonous fucking hum from the start of the game to the end of the game, and it's all just noise. It's bollocks. Drum beats and megaphones and just constant noise from start to finish. That's not real atmosphere to me. An atmosphere comes from something that happens. Robbo comes in, lifts a player up at a tackle. That's how you build atmosphere. Arteta's on the sideline, giving a dish, gesticulating. That's how you build atmosphere. Newcastle are wasting time at the cop end. That's how you build atmosphere. You can't just go in and flick on a switch. It's like you have a musician can go and play 10 nights in a venue. 8 of those nights could be incredible and 2 nights could be a bit flat. It just happens. Andy said, what do you think would be the best thing to do for Rio? I know he's very young, of course, and I'm sure he learns a lot in training, but doesn't get any game time. Would it be better to loan him out? This is a tough balancing act, isn't it? Because do you keep doing what you're doing, which is giving him very limited minutes, but he's training with the senior pros? He's getting used to travelling to big European nights. He's getting used to going home and away. So there are benefits to him even just being in the squad. But there are downsides to that as well. The downsides are, of course, that we're one player down because he's not ready to play 90 minutes week in and week out, nor should he be. He's a kid. Or do you send him back to the 21s where he's then playing at a lower level of football that is kind of night and day to senior football, and you're taking him away from training with the seniors? And then the third option is, do you loan him out somewhere? Do you send him on loan for the second half of the season? And genuinely, It's a tough call, but I think only Arne will know what he wants to do there. If Slot really knows he's not going to lean on him for the rest of the season too much, then for his development, you'd want to see the kid go and play minutes. So, it's one or the other. You either play him and you give him an opportunity as part of the first team, or you admit he ain't ready yet, loan him out somewhere and get him experience. But either way, the answer has to be more game time of some variety. Is the game on TNT tomorrow? Nope, it's not on TV in the UK. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff. So in Ireland, it's on Premier Sport. I'm not sure elsewhere. Sonder. So going into the season with Bradley Frimpong was a disappointment. So many good young, better options out there. Our build-up is affected by the right side, including Ibu. Jones at right back improves us a lot. I would look at it a little bit differently. I would look at it as if signing Frimpong was the questionable one, not the Bradley one, because Bradley is a natural right back or a wing back, but he can play at right back. It's the Frimpong one that I would question, and it's not because I don't rate Jeremy Frimpong as a footballer. I've said this many times. It's because I just don't understand how he fits into the way we play now. If we change it around, cool, but now I just don't get that one. So that's why, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Could we have gone out there and got a Knight Nuri? Could we have gone out there and got another right full from somewhere? Yes, probably. But we've gotten in Frimpong, and even at that, even when he was fit, I still don't know where he plays, and the manager doesn't seem to have a regular idea of where he's playing, because we've seen him play left back, or we've seen him play right back and right wing so far this season, but sporadically in either one. So I think the manager should get to his best 11 now and repetition where possible. Rotate where you can. And when I say rotate, I don't mean whole games. I mean, go out there and win the game in an hour, then get your boys off, rotate them. Give your Salah a rest, give your Virgil a rest, give Isak a rest, whatever you need to do. Win the game, rest players for the last 30. Not go out there, try to break them down, wear them down, win it in the last 20 and everyone's knackered. Then you can't rotate. Because we don't have the ability at the minute to just start swapping out players for full games because the drop-off's too big. And we just don't have the numbers at the minute. So I'd like to see the manager try to get them winning games earlier and rest them up that way. Cat Dad said, my youngest lad is going to his first game tomorrow. I'm so hoping Slot gets it right and they turn up the Reds. Love the channel, big man. Thank you, and wishing your son the very best. I can still remember my own magical first experience, and I hope your son is an incredible time tomorrow at the game. And I, like you said, I do hope Arne gets it right as well. Thank you so much for the kind words about the channel. But do drop back in and let us know how your young lad gets on. Fingers crossed he leaves it there, and it's a magical experience for him, because that's what we all want, right? We want the youngsters to be hooked in for the rest of their life like we are. So wishing them all the best, and thank you so much for your kind words. Craig, would you share the captaincy between the main players rather than just one, perhaps to make you feel wanted at the club? No, I think one captain, vice captain, maybe two vice captains, leadership groups. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of that, to be honest. I do think a leadership group's important. You've got senior pros there. But I think the problem when you've got maybe a leadership group is how much sway do they have? Like, are you getting into the territory then of you don't want to disrupt that leadership group by dropping one of them, or, holding them to account if they're not playing well? Is there a divide in the dressing room? So these are things you don't know unless you're inside that dressing room. But what I will say is, what you see of the likes of Virgil and all of them, all of the lads who are pretty senior pros, they do seem to be very approachable. They seem to be very much an arm around the shoulder of the younger players, encouragement, experience, advice. I give them all that. You look at Ibu with Ekatike, holding him to account for his gym work and stuff like that. So look, for Virgil, for all of that stuff, absolutely looks like the right man. And you see Ronald Koeman talking about him as a leader. I'm just a very different type of human being to Virgil van Dijk, and I'm a bit more emotional, and he's a bit more reassured and measured. So we all lead things in different ways, but no, I wouldn't be sharing the captain's armband around. I think Virgil's the captain, and that's cool. Would I take Iriola or Glasner for slot? No, I wouldn't. I'm not saying they may or may not do better, but it's another roll of the dice because they haven't done it yet at a club decide. Well, with Glasner, he has Europa League with Frankfurt, to be fair, but it's still a big step up, and I don't think either one of them has the gravitas to take over a club like Liverpool. It's not just a managerial job. It isn't. It's more than that. You're a figurehead. Who scores tomorrow? I'm gonna say Salah and Ekatike. Yeah, Salah and Ekatike I'm going for the goal scorers. Biggie Mal said, it's when you go up those steps and emerge into the stands. Yep, every time, man. Every time you go up the steps and then the lights catch your eye, the floodlights as you're going up them steps and it opens up. And then you start to go up and then you see the pitch. And then you realise what a pristine playing surface it is. And there's just something in the air, isn't there? And that first time, it's magical. Magical going to your first game. It's really awe-inspiring as a kid, walking into Anfield like that and just kind of taking it in. World of Naturalist said, maybe the club should just get Klopp for a one-day motivational session for the players to kick them back into winning mentality. It would just be undermining the manager at that point. And certainly if I'm in Slot's shoes, that's how I'm feeling. Jurgen did, I think, an incredible handover to Arne, and I'm sure Arne would agree. It was really, really good. Made sure everybody was getting behind the new coach. Couldn't have done any better. He really, really did hand over the club very, very well to Arne. Look, there's been a lot of negative stuff for me in particular tonight, but it all comes from a good place and wanting the club to do well. And it all comes from wanting Arne to do well. But I can't not say I'm confused at the minute as to what on earth we're looking at and what he's trying to do. It's concerning to me that he just doesn't seem to have a plan. I think Carragher kind of intimated something similar in that, are you trying to make us keep possession? What are you trying to do? Because we aren't Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. We aren't Paris Saint-Germain. We could be a Paris Saint-Germain type team. And that's what confuses me even more, is that last season he spoke so much about how he loves that style and how he'd love to emulate it. We'll do it then. But we're not. And now we've got the personnel to do it. And we're not. So I'm really confused. So Arne said this ahead of the Forest game. Our victories and performances against Aston Villa and Real Madrid, two teams who came to Anfield in very good form, allowed us to take 2 steps forward following a very difficult period in which results definitely were not good enough. So it was 2 steps forward followed by 1 step back, and this means we've made progress at the same time as knowing there's a lot of work to do. Today brings us an opportunity on both fronts. We know that, as always, the harder we work, the more likely we are to make the progress that isn't just desired. It's a necessary of being part of a club like Liverpool where expectations are only ever really high, and rightly so. So the manager, all you happy clappers out there who gave it the old, if you can't support us when we lose bollocks, the manager's just saying, rightly, expectations are only ever really high at this club, and rightly so. So you've heard it from the manager, the expectation levels here, and rightly so. So the standards that they're held to have to be here, right? Am I wrong? So when you start moaning at me or anybody else who dares criticise something, remember, standards are here, manager said, and rightly so, at Liverpool Football Club. So if those standards aren't being met, I think it's perfectly natural to ask why and expect better. J Bob said Liverpool could be PSG if they sign Semenyo and use the legs, win the Champions League. Likely, Slot will find a reason to make it not possible to happen. I was convinced we were going into this season and we were going to play like PSG. Not identical, but again, back to the high press, high intensity, condensing the pitch, playing with a high line, wingers playing really far forward, that you're defending by not letting teams out. So yes, there's going to be space behind your fullbacks, but you're not going to get to attack that space because you're going to be so penned in that the only option you're going to have is to go long or play around the press. And we'll back ourselves if you try to play around the press to win it, and then we've a shorter distance to go. If you go long, cool, but we've got pacey centre-backs who are going to come across and cover, so you're not going to get any joy there either. We've got a keeper who's playing on the edge of his box, so the keeper can mop up anything between the halfway line and the 18-yard box if it's going over the top. That's what I expected, especially with the type of players we signed. But we're not seeing that. We've seen it a little bit. Real Madrid, it was kind of there a little bit. Atletico Madrid, at the start, it was kind of there a little bit. But not enough. And, you know, I promise you, I swear on whatever you hold dear, that if we were making mistakes and losing these points, and the mistakes came from a new system or a new style of play, I would be way more relaxed about it. But I truly don't think it is because of that. I think it's because there's a bit of a hodgepodge going on of a few different things, and it's just not right. Sorry, going through some more comments. I do think the ref decisions had an impact on our positivity. We're all sold on Slot being similar style to Kloppo, but less gung-ho, less rock and roll, but we play more like a soft jazz band. Yeah, it is. Feels a long way from very similar data from Slot and Klopp to what we're seeing. It does feel a long way away. Captain doesn't really matter in a team. You captain yourself. We have a number of international captains. That's absolutely true, Jennifer. And, you know, we're very lucky to have that as well. You know, Andy Robertson, Milos Kerkez, Mohamed Salah, or excuse me, Andy Robertson, Dominic Szoboszlai, Mohamed Salah. I'm probably missing one. Virgil. All leaders of their countries. Absolutely. Not saying you're wrong, bit of devil's advocate. I expect high standards, but accept blips. There's a balance which I think we are getting right. I don't. Right, so I guess I'll come back with this one, Stu. Do you see a difference from the start of the season to now of a progression? That, like, let's use Florian Wirtz as a focus point. So Florian Wirtz might not have a lot of goals and assists, but I look at him and I know he's progressing. I can see him getting there bit by bit. With the team, I don't see the same thing. I see it blowing hot and cold. And that concerns me. So, yeah, I disagree because I'm not seeing progression week on week on week build into something. Sonder said, yeah, we only want the best, can't blame us. Exactly. We do. Like, I often say this when people have a go at me about the moaning. You can't have me being whoo, Ric Flair, yay, all kind of upbeat and happy without me being the other end of the spectrum when it's not going well, because that's me. That's the ABCs of me. That's what makes me me. I can't fake things. So yeah, I always find it weird. Like, you can't just have the happy version of me without the part of me that's stressing when we're not doing well, that's not sleeping well when we're not doing well, that's massively annoyed when we're not doing well. Like, I don't like this to be the case, but I always say if football impacts my well-being, it does. I wish it could be a case that I could just flick off a switch and not give a shit, and if we lose, shrug my shoulders and go, ah, well, so be it. But I have very limited things in my life that bring me pleasure, that provoke reactions from me, that stir emotion in me. And football happens to be one of those things. Food, my family, music, there are other things, comedy. But it really, 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 really hurts me when the club are like this, when it's not going the right way. Because it hurts me not only from a personal perspective that, you're seeing your team losing. I then have to come on each night and I have the pleasure of chatting with everybody, but I also have to try and rally people to figure it out. Or, sometimes you're coming on for a stream after we lose and you know what's coming. It's going to be angry people. They're going to be upset. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to take it out on me. They're going to take it out on each other. You know that. But you still try and do your best and put your best foot forward, because we all love the club. As so many of you were saying, we all love the club and we all want this to go in the right way. How we get there, I guess we all have different versions of that. And that's cool. That's why I always say, be respectful. We can disagree. We'll chat it through. No probs. And to be fair, for the last week, it has been an absolute pleasure to come in here every night and chat with you all. Even though, like El Stew a minute ago, we don't see these in the same way. The respect that you guys have grown and shown, it's really helped me a lot, because I was so, after that City game, I was dreading this international break and the way we were all going to be feeling. But it's been lovely to come on and just be reasonable, like, and talk reasonable stuff and not have to deal with, silly little, we're all shit, you're shit, get rid of it all, blow it all up, sell them all. We're genuinely all care, and we're just trying to figure it out. What's the massive Mark A news that we put out an hour ago? Did I? See, I don't run our socials, by the way, so if you're talking about the thumbnail, sorry, I'll give you that in a second, the story about Mark A. But if there was something posted on socials, dude, I don't have a fucking clue. I don't post them. But if we're talking about Mark Gay, 1 second. I'm at a loss. Sorry, I'm at a loss. Yeah, I don't know where that was posted, what it was, but truly, I'm at a loss. I don't know. Sorry, I don't actually know. I haven't even done a video today. That's why I'm confused. I don't know. Did Connor say something, write something, post something? Yeah. Yeah, sorry, man. I'm not trying to bluff you and answer. I just truly don't know. Look, if you're asking my information on Mark Gay, I'll repeat what I said the other night. I believe Mark Gay has given his word to Liverpool and that he will become a Liverpool player. After that, man, sorry. Yeah, I'm a bit confused. Dave, Craig, did you and Connor get my email? I don't get any of them. Connor, after the threats and stuff towards my family, I signed out of all the emails. So Connor forwards on what he thinks I need to see, Dave. So I don't know, mate. I'm sure it's come true, but I'll ask Connor to have a look out for it. Yeah, sorry, man. I hate that I have to do that, by the way. I used to be signed into everything, but these days, the Discord and the WhatsApp, they're the only places I have any access to. Who've Liverpool got next in the Champions League, said Petter. We have PSV Eindhoven, mate, Wednesday night, so, not the worst. Our next few games should be winnable, not like walkovers, but, the fixtures are kind enough for us, and certainly expect a win tomorrow and a win Wednesday, both of them. Better for your health to just ignore in case. Definitely. I have to because, even from a legal perspective, I have to, because when I see the stuff come in, my immediate reaction is to go back at somebody and, defend. So yeah, I have to. Even the police, conversations with the police, they told me to just pass on anything. Don't even interact. Don't get involved. I'll ask him, Dave. I'll ask Connor's day off today, even though he did a video this morning very kindly. It's his day off, so I will ask him. Kaz, how are we? Morning. Hope you're all well and looking forward to the game. Hope we're going to be talking about a win. 2 a.m. here. The game is. Well, I'm at the mercy of the electricity company tomorrow, so my electricity is due to be off from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. So I'm hoping it should be all good to go for the match reaction. Even better if it's back on before the game starts. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be watching the game on my phone and jumping on as soon as the electricity's back. Looking for small steps tomorrow. 1-0 win, clean sheet. Yeah, that'll do. Jennifer. Any win. A win is a win. Right, look, I'm going to go say goodnight to everybody. 2 hours has absolutely flown by. So again, thank you so much for coming in tonight. Do drop a like if you've enjoyed the stream. It hasn't been the most upbeat, positive stream ever, but I think it's been honest. I've enjoyed your interactions, and thank you. We'll be here tomorrow. Busy day planned tomorrow. Obviously, watch along from 1:45 p.m. That is now Connor's scheduled to do. Match reaction, player ratings, and then we'll have a late night agenda tomorrow night as well. So lots to come over the next week or so. Thank you guys so much for helping get me through the international break, because, yeah, I'd have gone insane without you guys to chat to and interact with each night. So have a good one. Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful weekend.